if she encounters
broke tiny dick.
Hey, it's Sue
And Megan,
the Spine Breakers.
And today we are going to do a least favorites or worst books of 2020 video.
And all of these authors should take this as a personal attack.
I mean,
I'm kidding.
Some of y'all maybe should. I will let you know as I get through these which one of you
Did you see all that
should.
bullshit on Twitter?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I
yeah.
did.
Yeah, this is a controversial video this time around for some reason, but we've literally done this every year of our channel, as have many people.
So we are going to continue to do it. So we're going to be drinking a beer, of course, while we talk about these.
And this is Southern Stratasphere Pale Ale by Melvin Brewing in collaboration with Narrow Gauge. And Melvin is in Eureka, Missouri.
Okay.
No idea where Narrow Gauge is, but
No idea.
let's try it.
Let's dive in here.
The can just caught my eye, so
No, the
I
can is
grabbed
really
it.
cool. I can't stop staring at it.
It says art by Young Meta.
Oh,
So,
that's really cool.
great job.
Great job, Young Meta. 2 old ladies approve.
Ooh, smells weird. Like tires, like burnt rubber.
Oh, it does. It does smell like a tire. It smells like a tire shop to me.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't taste like one.
It kind of tastes like one.
Kinda. It's not great.
It tastes like a tire shop smells. Like when you go in to buy new tires and there's all that like rubber. And it smells like that's what it tastes like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the taste though. It has a pleasant aftertaste.
It has a pleasant aftertaste.
It's kind of like citrusy.
But it's a weird
But
beer.
it's weird. I wonder if it's the hops, because I think it says Riwaka Strata Citra. So I'm guessing it's the type of hop they used,
Oh.
maybe. Anyway, let's jump into these least favorites.
Let's do it. And my first one breaks my heart to have to say, but it is Hottest Blood, edited by Jeff Gelb and Michael Garrett. This is a book of horror erotica short stories, and if you guys have been around the channel for a while, you might know that we do Spine Breakers After Dark series, where we talk about stories from this series of books.
Yeah.
Words are hard.
And just horror erotica in general, but
erotica
it's
in
often
general.
from this series.
It's often from this series. This particular collection was pretty problematic. So yeah, I think I gave this 2 out of 5 stars, and it broke my heart to do it.
I guess I'll go first with the only physical copy that I still have. And that's Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss. Mostly this one was just disappointing to me. I don't think I rated it super low. I think maybe I gave it 3 stars, which is my sort of meh rating, my indifferent rating. But it just, I thought it was just kind of dull.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a young girl, I think she's like 14, and she's on this camping, I guess you could call it, trip with her family, as well as like this college professor and some of his students, and they're living, the objective is for them to go out and live in the way that people did during the Iron Age. And her dad is like this, he's abusive, he's is like obsessed with the Iron Age for some reason, so that's how they end up on this trip.
Oh.
But it was just all right, I thought.
That's
I wasn't
fair.
blown away by it.
That's sad because the cover is really cool.
Yeah, it does have a really beautiful cover.
So next I will talk about Cold Mountain by Charles Frazier. I'm actually glad that I read this because I've had this for a while. I bought it at a library sale because I really like the movie, and finally read it. And I was really kind of disappointed. So I hate to compare it to the movie, but compared to the movie, it was just kind of boring. Like there really wasn't, and I guess this is true of it just by itself, independent of the movie, but like there really wasn't much of a relationship between the 2 main characters, and that was supposed to be the thing that kept both of them going, at least in the movie. Like that was the thing that each of them were holding on to because their lives were pretty shitty otherwise. But then in the book, it was just like they were both kind of indifferent to each other, and then they both went through these horrible things independently, and then they were like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess you're fine, like, you'll help me feel better. Like, it was just very lackluster, and I didn't love it. I really didn't love it. And the writing is pretty dense, and it's a bit flowery, and that's fine if there are occurrences and or events in your book.
Right.
But when it's just you pontificating about the fucking mountains, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe to somebody who like grew up there or who romanticizes that area, that would be cool. But I found it very boring.
Next, I'll talk about The Authenticity Project by Clare Pooley. This is about this group of people who is like brought together by this notebook that they each find. And it was started by this old man named Julian who wrote about, he called it The Authenticity Project, and he wrote about his life and things that he regrets. And then the owner of this cafe, he left it and finds it, and it goes on to other people from there, and they all kind of come together and like help each other and stuff. The writing was not particularly great in the book, and the characters were all just kind of archetypes. They didn't really have any depth to them, so I didn't give a shit about any of them. And then Julian, I actively hated.
Ouch.
He was the worst. Such a piece of shit. Wasn't good. 2 stars. I gave it 2 stars as opposed to 1, just because like 1 star I really reserve for things that are just
Actively hate.
Just like no redeeming qualities.
Like
and just,
actively hate it.
Yeah. And this wasn't that bad, but I did not like it.
That's
so.
Next, I will talk about Fellside by M.R. Carey. I wanted to like this very bad because M.R. Carey wrote The Girl with All the Gifts, which I really loved. This book is about a woman who gets sent to a notorious women's prison for murder, which she may or may not have committed. That remains a mystery through most of the book. And there's also like a ghost story in the book. And my problem with this was, because I think both stories were interesting, but my problem with it was that I felt like there were 2 very different narratives in this, and they were not well melded. So like there was the women's prison and like the corruption that occurred within the women's prison, and then there was this ghost story. And I think that M.R. Carey tried to merge the 2. I mean, I know they tried to merge the 2, but it didn't work well. And I felt like it was super disjointed. I had a really hard time getting through this. Like, this book stymied me through most of this. I mean, it was either March or May when I tried to, I think May, when I was trying to read this. And it stymied me through most of the month because I just did not care. So I think it could have been maybe done a little differently and would have been better.
Yeah.
So I gave that 3 out of 5 stars because I was interested in both storylines. I just didn't think that they merged well together.
Next I'll talk about the only one on my list that might be kind of controversial.
Oh, let us hear.
It's Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. This one is set in a dystopian future where humans are now bred and slaughtered and eaten. And you're following this man who is a worker at one of these like factory farm slaughterhouses. I've seen mixed reviews of this, but I feel like a lot of people really liked it. And it just didn't work for me. I don't know. To me, I felt like I mean, the author has a clear message. It's definitely anti-factory farm. I'd say probably pro-vegan. And, like, I can totally get behind the anti-factory farm thing. Factory farms are horrible. I get it. But I feel like she was too focused on that message. And to me, I didn't feel like there was really a great story.
Fair.
Because one of my major issues with it was that there was never a good explanation for it, and part of the reason for that is that our point of view character doesn't know the reason behind why we started eating people. But the reasons given didn't seem to make sense to me. And I'm not saying that it's not feasible, because like humans have done horrible things to each other. I don't know, I just needed some sort of reason that made sense.
Yeah.
That we suddenly started.
Why are we eating people now?
Yeah.
That's an extreme step.
Right.
Right.
What else? Oh, there was like a couple of situations where I felt like it didn't really make sense for it to happen, but obviously the author wanted it to be there to get her message across.
Further the message, right?
So that kind of bothered me too, and it just like, it was a lot of him like touring facilities and things and seeing all the atrocities. Major trigger warnings for this book.
Yeah.
Major. Yeah, I just was kind of underwhelmed by it and pretty disappointed. So it was a 2-star read for me as well.
That's
Did
a
not
bummer.
like it.
Next up, I have 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo. This was my first read of 2020, and I really didn't like it. I think I gave it 3 stars when I first read it, and then now I would give it 2. Like, thinking back on it.
Yeah.
So this is a nonfiction story, and it's the story of 3 women and their sex lives and their stories of like lust and desire and sex. And my problem with it is that, first of all, they're all the stories of white, straightish women. And secondly, I was hoping it would be empowering. I was like, yeah, women's sexuality. It was not. Like, it was all stories about how women their sexuality was preyed upon by men and used to the man's advantage and to degrade the woman. I'm like, so is the message here that women are just not supposed to enjoy their sexuality? Like, what are you trying to say, Lisa Taddeo? Because I am not impressed. So it was not empowering. It was not diverse. It just wasn't good. It did read like fiction, so it was a very quick read, which I did appreciate. But as far as like the content, the women included, and their stories, I feel like it could have been done. I don't know what the point of this book was, and if the point of the book was to like encourage sexual expression and like liberation, it did not hit its mark. If the book was to talk about how men capitalize and take advantage of women, then it did hit its mark. But it was a really depressing read, and I did not care for it.
Next on my list is a romance novel called Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. I read a lot of romance this past year, and a lot of it was pretty mediocre, but I didn't include any of it, any of the mediocre stuff on this list. But this one I really disliked because in the story, our main character is the youngest in her family, and she is a birthday party clown for a living. So she feels like no one ever takes her seriously, everyone treats her like a child, and she's upset with that. And then her love interest treats her like a child, and she's fine with that. I just hate that in romance novels where the man is like super possessive, overprotective, all that bullshit that I think people think is like the way men express love for someone.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that sounds more like possession.
It's degrading. Like,
yeah.
It's super degrading, and men don't think it is because they think it's just like, well, I love this person. And sometimes we as women don't realize it's degrading because we're like, oh, well, he just loves me so much.
Right.
But no, he's treating you like a really expensive action figure.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. So I just really didn't understand why the author would choose to have her love interest treat her more like a child than her family and, colleagues, friends do.
Right.
But it was okay for him to do it and not okay for them to do it. Also, his pet name for her was Baby Girl.
Ew.
Which just skeeved me out.
I hate that.
Like, if you really think about it, just calling your partner baby is a kind of weird. But it's normalized. But something about adding the girl, the baby
weird.
Girl, just really makes it weird to me.
Yeah.
And I read some of the reviews for the second book in this series. It's how romance series are, where it's just about other people that, about
in the
side
same
characters.
universe. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
because I was curious. I was like, there was some things I kind of liked about it, so I was like, well, maybe the next book would be better.
Right.
A couple of the bad reviews for it said basically the exact same things that I disliked about this one. And so I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with
I'm over it.
With this series for sure, and maybe with Tessa Bailey, I don't know.
So lastly on my least favorites list was Sin Eater by Megan Campisi. And I think I gave this 3 out of 5 stars, but like, so this book was about, it was set in the like 15 or 1600s, and it was about these women who were sin eaters, and so when someone dies, they call in the sin eater to basically hear confession. And then the sin eater assigns certain foods for their family to eat to atone for that person's sins. Certain foods are assigned to certain sins. And I thought that this was a really cool concept, and it was kind of like a female-centric dystopian story, but it really wasn't. What it ended up being was a very like stupid spies in the monarchy kind of, like someone's trying to overthrow the monarchy book. And I was like, I don't care about the monarchy. Like, tell me more about these women. Like,
Right.
And I thought it would have been really cool if they could have explored that as if Megan could have explored that as like a dystopian environment rather than like this stupid monarchy theme, or if it could have been like actually true, like if that was real life in that universe. So I feel like there's like a couple of different ways to make this book way cooler, and neither one of them were done. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was really mediocre, and it was a very big disappointment because I felt like it could have been so cool, and it fell short. It was not cool.
Yeah. The last one on my list, I like debated on whether to include this one or not because I had kind of mixed feelings about it. But I decided to include The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torre. This is about a woman who is agoraphobic. She never leaves her apartment and never lets anyone else inside it because she has an uncontrollable lust for murder. So she's afraid that if she encounters any other human, that she will kill them. And so she makes her living as a cam girl. Through her cam girl job, she encounters a client who is creepy and who she thinks is dangerous in real life.
Okay.
And so she has to figure out like how to do something about that without leaving her home. And it was just one of those books that like, it was compelling. I read it really quickly, but when I was done, I was like, that was so fucking stupid.
That sucks. That
I
sucks.
was just like,
What the fuck did I read?
Why did I read that?
Yeah, no, that's shitty.
Like, I still don't really know quite how to feel about it because, like, was it a good book? No, I don't think so. But it did, like, I flew through it, you know?
So it was, like, entertaining.
It was entertaining, but I also wouldn't really say that I enjoyed it.
Okay, that's fair. I don't know how to rate that kind of book because I've read those kind of books too, and like, well, how many stars do you give them?
I think I gave it 3 stars because that's kind of, like I said earlier, it's kind of my like middle of the road, like eh. And I was kind of disappointed because I had heard really good things about it, and then I was like, that was really just
lame.
bad.
That's lame.
It was bad. So that was my list. And I will say that like I had a hard time like finding books that I disliked enough to talk about. So I'd say that's like a pretty good
I think we had
year.
like a good quality reading year.
Yeah.
This beer is fine.
Yeah, I mean it's still
I have like kind of a rubber aftertaste in my mouth.
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten used to it, so it's not as like overpowering as it was when we like first took a drink. So I don't mind it too much now, but it still has like a rubbery flavor. So it's odd, but it's not bad.
It's fine. Yeah, I mean it's fine. If somebody offered it to me, I would drink it. But yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, so if you've read any of these books, let us know your thoughts.
What were your worst books of 2020?
What should we avoid?
Yeah, if you're comfortable sharing, let us know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it for us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.